my YouTube channel. I'm extremely nervous. I have never made a video for YouTube before other than for work, and so yeah, I'm that's kind of how I feel on the inside. This is Martha. Martha is with me all the time at home because unless she cries like you just saw. So she's going to be hopefully sitting quietly while I talk about my favourite thing in the whole world, which is books. So the aim of this channel is, I wanted a creative outlet so that I could talk to people about the stories that I love, the books I'm reading at the moment, the books I want to read, the books I probably should have read but haven't. I also have quite a large library that I'd love to share with people, how I organise my books. I'm really into bookmarks and different mugs. So yeah, I'm hoping that I can meet some new like-minded people through the internet. This is my reading chair that I'm sitting in right now, and you've probably already noticed I have a huge picture of myself. I'm not vain. That's a lie. I am vain. However, that's I used to work for a magazine called Crafts Beautiful, and when you leave the company and you leave your magazine, your friends make you a cover with your face on it. That's where it currently hangs. Think about moving that for the future because it looks a bit too much. So yeah, books. I have loved reading since day dot. I used to go to the library with my nan every week, and we would go across something called the Magic Crossing, which is what she called it, but is in fact a zebra crossing. But they're magic because the cars stop for you. But I always remember those trips. I'd get tons of books across all genres. I was never stopped from, exploring adult titles or anything that I wanted to read. I loved picture books. I have always been especially fond of the classics. So growing up, I loved stories from Austen to Bronte, Thomas Hardy, Dickens. I studied English at school right through to A-level, A-star. Thank you very much. And actually, I thought I would start by maybe talking about two of my favourite books. So this is Howard's End by E.M. Forster, and I collect copies of this. I have I think there's about eight copies of this. Slightly harder to come by than my other favourite, which I'll share with you in a moment. I have my mother's copy of this, so she wrote notes in the margin when she studied at school, and then I took her copy when I was studying A-level, and I wrote my notes in the margin, which I really loved. And then it also came up, I did a degree in English and American literature, so it came up then. I love it because it's about families, which fascinate me endlessly. Family units and what they're made up of, who's in them, how everyone relates to each other. I love that it's about class and what that means, and E.M. Forster writes, in a way to kind of break down class barriers and kind of show you the silliness of it all. And the main, I don't know what you'd call it, I suppose I don't know what that would be. Maybe someone could comment below. Only connect is the kind of, what is that? It's the message of that book. That if we only connect with one another, we can kind of, be, I'm making this a pig's ear of this. I know what I mean, so that's fine. Yeah, it's one of my favourite books. I've read it countless times. I love that there are adaptations of it. Zadie Smith on Beauty is actually told from the perspective of, so the beginning with the Schlegel sisters, the two sisters, Helena and Margaret, and she does two brothers. And then it's obviously brought up to date into modern times, and I think it's set in London. I'm pretty sure it's set in London. But yeah, love that story. My other favourite book is Jane Eyre. This copy is my grandmother's, and I love this cover. It's ridiculous. It's so not how I imagine they would look and be. But yeah, so this is another one of my favourites, and I have maybe 12 copies of Jane Eyre. Everywhere I go, if I find an edition I don't have, I buy it. So I've got like modern day editions of this. I know doesn't like Jane Eyre. And a lot of old copies. This one's slightly damaged down the spine, but I love that my nan has written year 1952 in the front, which doesn't, whether that's she got that for Christmas or something. I love this book because Jane is a strong, independent woman, and we need more of those. I love the romance between her and Mr. Rochester. I love the gothic elements of this story. Again, I studied it pretty much throughout my whole education. I did an essay on it for my degree. I don't ever get tired of reading it. I must have read it hundreds of times. Love it. And it's something that I dip back into quite a lot. I also have a couple of Jane Eyre quotes around my flat, which I will show you at some point. And I guess finally, for my, to wrap things up, I'm going to try and talk about what I'm currently reading as often as possible. I tend to read around 5 books at a time. I don't know if anybody else out there does this. I am a mood reader, so if I'm reading something particularly, I don't know, scary or sad, I don't always feel like I can do that. So at the moment I'm reading, this is what I'm currently reading, so it's got grub on the Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I finished her book Little Fires Everywhere last week, and I loved it so much that I had to immediately start something else she had written. This is her only other novel. So had to start this immediately. I love her, how the style of her writing is, I can't even describe it. It's beautiful. And again, it's families and how they are, how our behaviours are quite destructive and we don't always realise, and it's about race and sort of this, it's just, the last one the Little Fires Everywhere was set in a really kind of Stepford Wives kind of town, which I loved, and it shows you kind of the flaws in people and how we relate to each other and things like that. So I'm nearly done, I swear. Martha is probably not going to be appearing in every video because it looks like she's just going to cry. So I'm currently reading this, but I'm also currently reading a couple of other books. One I do not have with me at the moment because I've left it at work, but it's called My No Year Spend, or the No Spend Year. Can't remember who it's by. I'll have to put it up. I do have an Instagram channel. I have an Instagram channel which is the same as my YouTube channel, the Essex Reader, so please follow me. I'll be posting pictures of books. If you're not into books, this probably isn't for you, but but the No Spend Year, is blowing my mind. Basically it's about not spending any money for an entire year, and when I say that, she spends money on her, obviously, for food and groceries, and her bills go out obviously as usual, but apart from that she spends no money whatsoever. So I know for me it's the hardest thing has been not buying a coffee every 5 minutes because I freaking love coffee. Travel to see people. I have a car, so I actually have a budget for fuel already, but it's just really interesting. And she also writes beautifully about how you can kind of transform your life to to not spending as much money and save money. So I'm reading that, and then I'm also about to start, I'm looking for it now, where is it, The Reading Cure. I should have had that in my hand, but it's about overcoming anorexia through reading different stories. So that's what I'm reading at the moment, and I'm hoping to share more videos covering what I'm reading, what I'm loving, what I'm not loving. I don't pressurize myself to read a certain amount of titles per month, but I am on Goodreads trying to do the challenge. So I've set myself a target of reading 40 books this year. I am over halfway, but we are also over halfway in the year, so who knows. So that's it really. That's me, the Essex reader. I'm really looking forward to sharing my love of books with you, and I'm sure Martha will be back, and give me a follow on Instagram. Okay,